In MotoGP, speed is visible, but greatness hides where no camera can reach, inside the heartbeat that refuses to slow down when physics says it should. 2025 didn't just crown a champion. It exposed a secret written in sweat, scars, and telemetry. Marc Márquez, the man who bends motorcycles the way wind bends flame, returned not with rage but with something far more terrifying: control. And the one who finally decoded that mystery wasn't a rival from another team, but his own brother, Alex, the quiet architect of composure. What Alex revealed wasn't a technique, but a philosophy, the invisible art of turning chaos into calculation. He spoke of Marc's silence before corners, the microscopic brake pressure change that separates instinct from miracle, the moment the rear tire screams and Marc answers with stillness instead of fear. Every champion rides on the edge. Marc lives there, rearranging the laws that keep everyone else safe. Alex calls it the calm that kills, a serenity so disciplined it feels inhuman. For years, riders chased his lines and lost seconds. Now they chase his psychology and lose themselves. The question that lingers isn't how fast Marc is, but how much further he can go before the sport itself must evolve to contain him. And somewhere inside that pursuit, between bloodline and telemetry, lies the answer Alex dared to whisper: nobody is unbeatable, but Marc Márquez comes close enough to make the word meaningless. And yet, behind that secret of calm and control lies a story that began long before the trophies, in the dust, noise, and hunger of two boys who refused to stop dreaming. Before the world saw the champion and the challenger, there were simply the Márquez brothers, building their legend one scraped knee and broken fairing at a time. They say legends are not born in the noise of victory, but in the silence of persistence. And on that autumn afternoon in Valencia, the noise was deafening because the silence had lasted 20 years. The Márquez brothers stood in the podium like mirror destinies finally aligned, one crowned again, the other reborn. The scoreboard didn't just show numbers. It displayed the coordinates of a family's obsession written in lap times. Marc's 7 world titles had already carved his name into asphalt, but Alex's runner-up finish on an aging GP24 rewrote the grammar of belief. It's the reward for hard work, and above all for the passion and attitude of a small family that gave everything so their 2 sons could fulfill their dreams, he told the crowd, his voice trembling with that impossible mix of relief and disbelief. Behind his words hid the smell of burnt rubber and the echo of childhood Saturdays spent at dusty Catalan circuits where their father tightened bolts with fingers that smelled of oil and hope. A little-known technical note adds weight to the poetry. Alex's Desmosedici ran a hybrid swing arm with 2024 geometry, 2 millimeters shorter than Marc's factory version, forcing him to adjust braking load by instinct alone. He called it feeling the difference through the bones. In the private corner of his mind, he whispered, "We didn't just race each other. We raced the ghosts of every sacrifice we never thanked enough." That inner confession was more revealing than any statistic. Marc had conquered injury and fear, rebuilding his right arm with plates and patience, while Alex had conquered anonymity, shedding years of comparison like dust from old leathers. Together they proved that brotherhood can be both rivalry and refuge. The camera zoomed in on their helmets touching, 2 visors reflecting the same sun. The crowd saw triumph. They felt release. "We were just 2 kids from Cervera, and we finished first and second in MotoGP. It's something incredible," Alex said, smiling the way a child does when a dream finally stops hurting. Beneath that smile, their mother wept quietly, remembering the mortgages traded for engines and the summers spent counting petrol money. The moment smelled of champagne, but tasted of dust. The metallic hiss of the engines idling below the podium was like the heartbeat of Spain itself. In that rhythm, Marc looked at his brother and saw not competition but completion. "This is the gift that can make our parents happiest, seeing us enjoy our passion," Alex added, sealing the emotion with gratitude instead of pride. The air shimmered with heat, like a road bending toward eternity. If fate were a racetrack, this was the lap where it finally made sense. And when the confetti fell, it felt less like celebration and more like absolution. 2 boys from a small town proving that faith can travel faster than fear, and destiny, when shared, can lap the world. Pressure in MotoGP is measured not only in seconds but in heartbeats per corner, and no one has learned to translate chaos into clarity quite like Marc Márquez. While others tense under the roar of the grid, he finds a strange serenity inside the storm. Alex called it his brother's greatest weapon, a calm so sharp it cuts through panic like a blade through fog. In Japan, when expectations swirled like exhaust in the paddock, Marc's words became Alex's compass. He said to me, "In Japan, people are giving you a lot of pressure." If you finish third, I was third in 2024. Just don't put pressure on yourself. You're already making more than expected. Try to enjoy it. The simplicity of that advice concealed a psychological sophistication worthy of a grandmaster. Marc doesn't reject pressure. He metabolizes it. A little-known technical detail explains his ability to stay fluid. His RC213 versus rear brake lever is adjusted 4 millimeters closer to the bar than standard, allowing microcorrections mid-lean without shifting body weight. Those imperceptible movements mirror the control inside his head. I breathe once, I let the noise dissolve, and the bike obeys. Marc might think, alone behind the visor as 1,000 cameras wait for imperfection. It's not meditation, it's mastery disguised as stillness. Each time the front wheel twitches at 220 kilometers per hour, his heartbeat remains steady, like a metronome dictating destiny. To Alex, watching from behind, it felt almost supernatural, as if Marc had learned to slow time itself. But inside that calm is something feral, the discipline of a predator who stalks opportunity rather than chases it. The metaphor that defines him is not of battle, but of music. Marc rides like a conductor who hears harmony where others hear noise. His rhythm never breaks, even when the track does. When the rear tire slides, he doesn't fight. He dances with it, toe-tapping the limit like jazz. That's why rivals crumble. They mistake aggression for control, while he hides precision within chaos. Alex confessed later that learning to enjoy the pressure was like learning a new language written in adrenaline and silence. By Sepang, that lesson had become armor. Marc's calm is not emptiness. It's a space where every fraction of fear is converted into focus. The climax arrived in Japan when, under a red sky, Marc crossed the line first, barely moving a muscle, the crowd erupting around him, and Alex whispered to himself, he isn't escaping pressure, he's building a home inside it. Brotherhood in MotoGP is not a handshake. It's a shared pulse beating beneath leather and carbon fiber, a silent code written in throttle language. Marc and Alex Márquez embody a paradox where rivalry becomes a mirror rather than a wall. On the surface, one is the master of chaos, the other the student of balance, yet the line between them has long blurred under the same Catalan sun. We grew together, we worked together, we suffered together, and this year we win together. I love you, baby brother, Marc wrote after Sepang, and the message felt less like celebration than confession. Theirs is a connection forged through broken bones and borrowed courage. When Alex watched Marc's telemetry in the garage, he saw not just data but a heartbeat turned into numbers. A little-known technical detail reveals the intimacy of their rivalry. Both brothers use nearly identical front brake pressure curves, 9.2 bar at maximum input, yet their timing differs by just 0.03 seconds, proof that genetics and style can coexist inside millimeters. Sometimes I wonder if he still feels me chasing him through the corners, Alex thought as he leaned into turn 11, hearing the echo of childhood laughter in the engine's vibration. That unspoken dialogue travels through asphalt more honestly than words ever could. The metaphor that defines them isn't of battle, but of reflection. Marc is the lightning that strikes, Alex the mirror that captures its light without breaking. Together, they complete the weather. In every race they share, the air thickens with memory of long van rides, shared helmets, and the sting of losing to your own blood. Journalists call it rivalry, but the truth is more fragile and profound. Alex doesn't want to dethrone Marc. He wants to understand him. The stronger your rivals are, the more they push you to improve. There are two ways to react: jealousy or learning. I chose to focus on how he does things because that's what makes you better in the long run, he said, and it sounded like philosophy disguised as modesty. What makes this bond extraordinary is its evolution, from boyhood competition in Cervera's dusty kart tracks to mutual respect in MotoGP's electric glare. When one falls, the other feels the impact in his chest before the crowd even gasps. Their rivalry doesn't tear them apart. It stitches them tighter, seam by seam. The culmination of this dynamic came at Sepang, when both stood on a podium, the national anthem trembling through the tropical heat. They didn't look at the cameras but at each other, two lives reflected in the chrome of history. And in that glance, the sport itself seemed to pause, as if realizing that greatness isn't always measured in isolation. Sometimes, it's born from the beautiful burden of being understood. Marc Márquez rides like a scientist disguised as a daredevil, calculating chaos with the patience of someone who's already crashed 100 times in his head before the lights go out. His brilliance is not born from raw aggression, but from an almost surgical adaptability that bends physics into obedience. Rivals describe him as a shadow that never gives them a moment to breathe because he turns uncertainty into strategy before anyone else has even felt it. When the grip drops, he doesn't panic. He changes rhythm mid-corner, adjusting throttle maps by instinct, making control look like rebellion. At the start of the season, I wasn't crashing in practice, but after 5 races, I started to crash in sessions because it was the only way to find the limit and really challenge Marc. The crashes I was having, he was saving them, Alex Marquez confessed, exposing the gap between courage and control. A lesser-known technical secret hides in that mastery. Marc modifies his steering head angle by half a degree during Friday tests to reshape front feedback, a microscopic change that redefines the bike's conversation with the tarmac. It's that sensitivity that makes him terrifying. I don't fight the bike. I listen until it tells me the truth, he tells himself before every qualifying run, closing his eyes to visualize the invisible. That inner mantra turns data into instinct. Watching him from behind, Alex realized that adaptability was not a reaction. It was a mindset built on trust with a machine. If you look at his numbers, Marc seems practically unbeatable. But no one is truly unbeatable. Everything can change from one day to the next, Alex admitted, acknowledging the fragile genius of his brother's perfection. Yet numbers alone can't explain it. Marc senses traction loss through vibration rather than telemetry, like a pianist feeling the wrong note through wood instead of sound. His adaptability is a living organism that evolves with every lap. I've always said it, a Marc with the right tools is extremely difficult to defeat over 22 races. You might beat him sometimes, but being better than him overall is very hard because he's such a complete rider. He always pushes you to the limit. That quote is both respect and resignation, a testimony to the burden of chasing excellence too pure to copy. The metaphor that defines him isn't fire or battle. It's water finding its way through stone, relentless, patient, reshaping everything it touches. The pressure he puts you under, always pushing to the limit from the first lap on Friday, it's hard to accept, Alex said later, as if describing weather instead of will. Marc's adaptability dissolves obstacles until opponents confuse resistance with survival. Even when his body aches, he adapts his braking zones to pain, converting weakness into data. He wins not because he's faster, but because he's fluent in the dialect of chaos. And when the checkered flag falls, it isn't victory that astonishes. It's the serenity of a man who just taught gravity how to wait. If Marc Márquez is thunder, Alex Marquez is the echo that teaches you what the storm really meant. Their differences are not opposites, but equations of the same relentless hunger, each solving the problem of speed in his own syntax. Marc rides as if every lap were a declaration of defiance. Alex rides as if every lap were an essay in patience. Together they compose the rhythm of MotoGP's evolution, explosion and calculation, the art of chaos meeting the science of restraint. I lack Marc's explosiveness, and he lacks the composure I have at times. I envy his explosiveness more than his composure. It's what has given him the titles, Alex admitted, the honesty cutting sharper than any lap time. He wasn't confessing weakness. He was defining identity. The little-known technical contrast between them lies in clutch modulation. Marc prefers aggressive slip ratios for brutal corner exits, while Alex programs smoother engine braking, sacrificing 2/10 for tire life across 22 laps. Maybe I don't need to be faster. Maybe I just need to be constant, Alex thinks, eyes locked on the telemetry's pulse like a doctor reading his own heartbeat. Composure for him is not passivity. It's resistance turned into art. Marc's fire burns oxygen. Alex's composure controls it. When Marc attacks, sparks fly from titanium sliders. When Alex follows, precision becomes poetry. My way in MotoGP was not easy. I started in 2020 in a really good way with 2 podiums. But later at LCR, I suffered for 2 years. I was nearly at home in 2023. Just a piece of luck, I got the opportunity at Gresini. That's why this second place is really special, he recalled, every phrase stitched with scar tissue. The metaphor that defines their duality is not war, but weather. Marc races like summer lightning, Alex like winter sunlight, slow to arrive but impossible to forget. His quietness unsettles because it's deliberate. It speaks in margins, not headlines. I prefer to do my job on track. Being self-critical is very important. That's my philosophy. If something goes wrong, you acknowledge it, accept it, and move on. Not only in MotoGP, but in life. Those words formed the architecture of his resurgence. Each race became a study in control, throttle percentage, tire temperature, heart rate, all balanced on the knife edge of patience. The paddock once called him Mark's shadow, but shadows can also define shape, and Alex learned to master the light that created him. His composure is no longer defense, it's design. Every smooth corner exit is a quiet rebellion against volatility. The climax came at Sepang, when Alex, unflinching in the heat, passed Bezecchi with a move that looked almost too calm to be heroic. And in that instant, he proved that sometimes the softest hand on the throttle leaves the deepest mark on history. Greatness in MotoGP often masquerades as invincibility, but Marc Márquez's supremacy hides something more intricate, a dialogue between precision and pain that few ever hear. His dominance is not about never falling. It's about knowing exactly how to rise before gravity finishes its sentence. Alex Márquez has spent a lifetime studying that rhythm, searching for the formula that turns suffering into speed. Nobody is unbeatable. We'll see, he said with the calm of a man who has stopped fearing comparison and started chasing comprehension. Marc's aura feels supernatural from a distance, yet up close it's mechanical, built from thousands of microdecisions made at 300 kilometers per hour. The technical core of his resilience lies in his front-end sensitivity. Marc calibrates fork preload half a millimeter lighter than Ducati's baseline, a choice that lets him read traction like Braille through his palms. That difference, invisible to cameras, is what allows him to flirt with physics without apology. Maybe that's his secret, Alex thinks mid-corner. He trusts the unknown more than the known. Nobody is unbeatable, but being better than Marc over 22 races is very difficult, he later admits, the words tasting of both truth and surrender. For Marc, obsession is oxygen. He breathes control until it becomes instinct. He redefines limits not by conquering them once, but by redrawing them every Sunday. Alex, meanwhile, evolves in parallel, shaping composure into weaponry. No, I don't see it that way. I see it more as a test for myself to get the most out of my garage. So there's no doubt about what might have happened with the latest bike. It gives me peace of mind, he explained when handed the GP26, his tone almost monk-like. That peace is deceptive. It's the still surface above volcanic hunger. The metaphor that binds them is not war, but astronomy. Marc is a star collapsing into himself. Alex the planet learning to orbit without burning. The brothers' trajectories illuminate each other. Their gravity shared, their distance precise. Marc's victories are equations solved under duress. Alex's are questions answered through patience. As the engines cool, the paddock quiets. One rides toward legacy, while the other rides toward understanding. It's true that I finished second, but I'm as happy as if I had one. Being able to share success with your brother is something even better than a title, Alex confessed, his smile a mixture of exhaustion and grace. That confession dismantled the myth of invincibility with a single breath. Because behind every unbeatable man stands someone who reminds him why he fights at all. And when the lights fade on another season, the truth hums between them like an idling engine. Perfection was never the secret, persistence was.